This image here is the event image that comes when you get the Comet Sighted event. Comet Sighted in EU4, very iconic, loses stability. Every patch they added a new option of some way that you could, take the event. You'd always lose the stability unless you had the right philosopher, I believe, advisor. But you'd always lose some stability. And in EU5, you lose 7 stability, which is way less impactful than 1 stability in EU4, but it's irrelevant. I bring this up because this is the image that Paradox chose to put at the top of their latest patch announcement, patch 1.0.10. This happened on Wednesday, so a couple of days ago. I've been a little busy, so apologies that I didn't get to it. But in all essence, all this did was take the update that I had been playing on, the 1.0.10 beta patch, and made it the live patch. And I didn't think it was all that much of a big deal, right? Sure, we have a bunch of change logs in here, but there's nothing in here that was new. There was nothing in here that was going to shout out as, this thing here needs to be talked about. It was essentially just going to be a video of saying, by the way, all of the things that I've been talking about over the past few videos, all of these changes that have been made to the 1.0.10 patch, are now live on the main patch. And I didn't realize at the time that another thing that they'd done with this patch was something that if I had noticed, I definitely would have made a video about, and I would have complained about, because I think it's a pretty freaking ridiculous thing to do. And that was remove the previous patches as playable betas in Steam. You couldn't go into properties, right-click, or go into your library, right-click on EU5 and choose, I still want to play on 1.0.4, or I only want to play on 1.0.7 or 1.0.9 or whatever. You couldn't do that. And that's insane. That's actually wild, because this has not been a completely smooth, without controversy patch. There are significant issues with it. For starters, there are things that I do like. There are things that I think are fantastic about it. The changes to rivers, even though we did lose the rivers map mode, which is absolutely heinous in and of itself. But the changes to rivers and proximity, I really like. I like the balancing aspect of things. I quite like the changes that were made to levies and regulars, though I still think there are more changes yet to be made. I really like the changes to the economy. I think a lot of the changes that were made have been positive, but there are things that also people really dislike. And one of those things is AI aggressiveness. In the early stages of this game's release, people were saying this is the nothing ever happens game. The Soy Jack meme guy, whatever. The nothing ever happens patch. The nothing ever happens game. You play, you have a time-lapse, multiple time-lapses were made where countries basically did not declare war, did not expand, did not do anything, and that was that. That was the state of the game. And then Paradox tried to remedy this situation, because there was a lot of outcry about nothing ever happens, and it was becoming a meme that I think the devs didn't really want to be associated with their game. So they released patch after patch that upped the AI aggressiveness, sometimes to ridiculous levels and sometimes to less ridiculous levels. And I think right now we are in one of those situations where it is at a ridiculous level. I think it has been overtuned. And while when that is the situation on a beta branch, that can be acceptable. That is something that I'm fine with, right? If there is something a bit funky about a beta patch that I have opted into playing as, then things can be a bit janky. Things can be not, pristine. Things can go a little bit off the rails. And rails there being a quite important talking point as well. We'll get to that. But when it comes to making this the official patch, the official branch that everyone is playing with, and basically absolutely everyone, because they removed the previous ones. And yes, I know by the time you watch this, and by the time I'm actually recording this, that has just been changed. I should probably just make that clear right now. They have reinstated the 1.0.4 and 1.0.7 patches. This happened half an hour ago. So just put that aside. But that happened half an hour ago, and this patch has been live since Wednesday. So this is the patch also that people were going to be forced to play with all Christmas break, right? The devs have gone on their holiday breaks now, and they won't be back until January, and we're going to get an update in January that's going to fix and change and do all of the necessary niceness that we're hoping to get from the game. But the game, as it stands right now, there were significant issues. I made a time-lapse. This is 1010, and we do get some kind of shapeless blobs, right? The HRE essentially ceases to exist. Basically, it gets split between Bohemia and England. England went through various stages of being overpowered, being underpowered. They started out, like, when the game came out, I felt they were the most balanced they have ever been. And then it's just been getting further away from balanced, but like France was OP for a while, and then now England is OP now. It's like I don't know where they want them to be in that regard. But this is essentially what the game is now. Britain completely overpowered, going straight up into Italy, Bohemia just absolutely insane. But there have been patches since this was released, so I need to definitely make sure that that is pointed out as well. Castile and Portugal generally won't rival and murder one another, or let's say Castile won't murder Portugal anymore. You won't see French vassals inside the UK or inside Great Britain. But right now, there is still an issue where the HRE kind of doesn't exist as an entity, because essentially the game starts looking like a multiplayer game really quickly. Whereas, and by that I mean all of the AI between the players, between the big blobs, get eaten up as quickly as possible, and then you end up with, big blob here, big blob here, big blob here, and then nothing in between. And if that's the situation that the devs want, then I guess, but I don't think it is, and I know that it isn't what the majority of players want either, or at least I'm assuming it's not. There was a video put out recently by One Power Bavarian as well. The newest patch, why he barely plays EU5 anymore, and you can see on the thumbnail we're getting somewhat of a similar situation. In this case, France ended up dominating England, Bohemia ended up dominating the HRE, and there's just no HRE between them. Italy seemed somewhat more logical. Hungary obviously took Constantinople, and then Kyiv has gone all the way up into Estonia, and there's a Poland there. This looks like, say for Italy, this looks like a multiplayer game, and I don't think the AI should play in that way. They shouldn't. And OPP brings up some pretty decent points. That while it is nice to have a game where, the nothing ever happens isn't the case, right? I want the AI to play the game, and I want the AI to play the game to a level that is challenging to the player. I don't want the AI to play the game in such a way that I am essentially racing against them to become the biggest blob, because otherwise I just die. Like, I would like to be able to play as Holland. I don't think that's really feasible in the current patch. I'd like to have a run as Meissen, form Saxony. I don't think that's feasible in the current patch. Austria, I don't think is feasible in the current patch. Basically, if you border France or Bohemia, Hungary, you are in it's a ticking time clock bomb thing before you just die, because the AI is just ridiculously powerful when they are starting this large. And it is, I think, not just down to changes to levies and regulars, because that's something that is brought up here. Essentially, levies take longer to recover, because it used to be a bug that you could just re-raise your levies instantly, but now they take a long time to recover, whereas truces in EU5 are generally very, very short. So if I beat you within an inch of your life, take a bunch of your land, and your levies are completely gone, by the time your levies are back, I've had another war already, because our truce is, say, 5 years, and your levies take 15 years. So if I wipe your levies, you won't have recovered them by the next time I beat you down. And yeah, again, that's another issue. That means that the snowball for large countries starts sooner. And again, I wouldn't have as much of an issue with it if it wasn't for, again, something that OPB, like, this is a pretty decent video, you should probably watch it. But it removes a bunch of the flavor of the game. The Holy Roman Empire is not really something that exists in the current patch because it just gets wiped out. The Western Schism is something that just doesn't really happen. It doesn't occur because, say, Naples goes and owns Rome, or France goes and owns Rome, or France goes and owns Avignon and Rome. The 100 Years' War is just diabolical right now. The Rise of the Turks situation is... I don't think I've ever seen the Ottomans defeat the Mamluks, for example. The Mamluks are very commonly coming into Anatolia now again. So, yeah, there are some issues, and the big blobby AI is kind of removing some aspects of the game, the flavor of the game, the situations of the game, and that's just not something that we should really want to see happen. I don't know what the recovery is. I don't know what the ideal solution, the ideal state of the game is. I don't know what I would want to have happen to balance between I want the AI to be somewhat aggressive and not do nothing, and I also don't want the AI to be, completely overpowered dominant over its smaller neighbors. I would like to see the HRE start the game broken up and last probably until the end of the game, still broken up into various different polities within it. I think that it all goes down as well back to the Golden Bull, right? The Golden Bull is something that gets passed in around 1356, historically the 25th of December, 1356, that prevents no CB wars within the Empire. And the Empire doesn't start with it. So that's something that allows Bohemia to just blob out at the start of the game. And sure, maybe a coalition fires and tries to attack Bohemia, and then Bohemia just annexes a bunch of people with that war as well. Or they attack the coalition because they're just not afraid of the coalition because, their levies are so much weaker than Bohemia's. And you end up in a situation where the HRE just ceases to exist. And I know I keep repeating that same point, but it's so bloody key. It's so at the forefront of everything that I think is an issue with the current patch. When I was playing the game, I felt less of an impact. Playing Bohemia is what I was doing in 1.0.10. I'm not the kind of player to just mindlessly blob out. I was very conscious of control. I was very conscious of proximity, and I was very conscious of what made natural sense to expand into. So I didn't do too much of the expansion, and France lost to England, so I didn't really see any of the out-of-control, mindless blobbery that we can see in this time-lapse that OPP does. Thanks for... I didn't ask permission to show your video, but I'm sure you're not going to say no. But I didn't see this level of blobbery in my game because it just didn't end up happening. And again, it's a case of like when you're doing observer games, you're seeing things that you don't really encounter when you're playing naturally. But I don't know. I don't know where I want to see the game because if I'm playing outside of Europe, this is not the kind of Europe I want to see when I, unlock vision over here. Yeah, I don't know. This is just more of a little rant and a ramble rather than anything constructive. I don't know what my suggestion would be. I guess... I don't know. The Golden Bull, I think, is one of the key ones, and for Europe at least. And I think having the elements of the Golden Bull that prevent blobbing, the no CB wars, that should just be standard in the Empire from the start of the game, honestly. Because it is not something that really changed the Empire in real life. It was more of a codification of an existing reality. The status quo being put to law rather than something heinous has happened in the Empire and we need to put a stop to it, right? That's not really what happened there. So maybe that could be a start. We could see how that change pans out. But I don't know. There's other things that maybe could be done. There's also community sentiment, a heavy one that is that dichotomy, that balance between railroading on one side and sandbox on the other is like something that the community keeps bringing up, and I don't think it is the right way to think about things. I think you can have both. These situations are railroads, I guess, but in between the situations is plenty of space for sandbox, and if you're the player, obviously you can sandbox all you like while still, respecting the existence of the situations if you so desire. Whether the AI really follows these railroads, I don't really want them to. I don't want to see a game where every single campaign, no matter what, say I run 100 observer games, record them all, post them all, and in every single one, the Ottomans does the historical Ottoman thing because they're railroaded to the historical Ottoman thing. Austria always becomes the Holy Roman Emperor because they're destined to become the Holy Roman Emperor because of railroady things. The France eventually wins the 100 Years' War because they're historically railroad. Like, I don't want to see that in every single game. I like variance. I do. I really like variance. I don't want to see the same thing happen every single time. And I feel like this is a debate that we've been having for, honestly, years now. Because I remember, like, doing the 3 Moves Ahead No CB podcast. There's a link in the description if you want to check that out. Having this debate with Liana Hafer and Father Loris as to, specifically we were talking about Anatolia, but what kind of percentage are we hoping to see where, the Ottomans ends up coming out on top in Anatolia versus another Beylik coming out on top in Anatolia versus the Romans coming out on top in Anatolia? What are the percentages? What are we thinking there? And I remember Father Loris was in favor of a much higher percentage for the Ottomans to come out on top than I was. For obvious reasons. I am a Romabu after all. But it was he is more in favor of the railroady aspect than I am. I do like a little bit of sandbox, and I don't like it when the AI is absolutely railroaded. I'd like the historical guideline. I'd like a road. Historical roading. Historical infrastructure road works. A gravel road at maximum, but we're not going all the way to railroads for me. I would like the AI to step off the rails and do other things if other things, other opportunities present themselves. But I'd also like some brakes on it. I'd also like some kind of guardrails to stop them going completely insane and blomming out, like in a multiplayer game. But anyway, I don't know. This feels like just a bit of a rambly, ranty video. But hey, if you were somebody who wants to play on 104 or 108, 107, then you can. If you want to play on 1010, you can. And if you don't want to play at all, then there's a few of you, I guess. I've been seeing comments with increasing regularity about that. And I don't know. I still like the game. I still like playing the game. I still want to play more of the game. And yeah, I hope they correct course. I hope they come back in January with a renewed vigor and a solid vision, and the next update is like just on point. That's what I'm hoping for, and I don't think it's outside of the realms of possibility. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Sorry that this video took a little while to get out, but hey, it came with news of this, so I guess there's that. So Thanks all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.